メリアンの物語。何年経っただろうか、父を探して半世紀、忙しい東京でのスケジュールをキャンセルして東京成田に駆けつけた。The Tale of Marianne. How many years have I waited, longing for half the century, looking for my father? This is the book that I have been trying to write for the memoir of the Tale of Marianne. And this is the beginning part.
That's you and your mother, isn't it?
Yes, it's my mother Vivianne and me, myself.
I mean, she is half Swedish,
Yes.
so...
No, she's quarter Swedish, quarter German, and half Japanese by blood.
By blood.
In 1948, Japan was living with defeat and the devastation wrought on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In this chaotic aftermath of war, a 20-year-old girl, Vivianne, met, fell in love with and became pregnant by a CIA agent, James Vaughn. Vivianne's grandfather had been a Swedish sea captain and in Japan was a hero, having saved 50 sailors from drowning during the Sino-Japanese War, the first foreigner decorated by the Emperor with the Order of the Rising Sun.
He was a captain of a boat that was ordered by Japanese government or Mitsubishi shipping company, and which he started off from Glasgow, England, and sailed off all the way to Japan. And then he settled because he was to teach navigation to the Japanese government. So he was hired for the shipping company later on by Japanese government to teach navigation.
And then he met your grandmother.
Great-grandmother.
Your great-grandmother, Naka.
Naka, yes.
Oh.
Naka.
In the spring of 1949, Vivianne gave birth to Marianne, but then tragedy struck. James had earlier gone back to the United States to obtain a visa for his new wife. Alone and vulnerable, Vivianne succumbed rapidly to tuberculosis. As she was dying, she made a Japanese nanny promise to look after the baby until James could collect her. The nanny followed her employer's wishes, but with no intention of handing Marianne over. And so a bleak future beckoned in the slums of Yokohama, with a penniless foster mother and a violent alcoholic stepfather.
You had some difficult times as well when you lived in the slum with your mother. You lived in domestic violence.
Yes. With Masakatsu, the new father, daddy, he didn't bring the money to home because he was heavy alcohol drinker and he played poker. So every time the payday, there will be a big fight going on because he will be using up much of the salary.
Yes.
And then the quarrel started between Fumi and Masakatsu, and then of course the beating and kicking and slapping, slashing. She often or several times invited me to jump off the cliff and then just commit suicide. And she would say in Japanese, like Marianne Shinoka, means Marianne, again this Marianne, let's die.
The surroundings in which Marianne spent her early childhood were incredibly squalid. The family lived in one small room and sometimes did not eat for days.
There was no really kitchen. We had to be outside on the earth to make the fire and cook hot water and cook rice. And then we had well nearby, just all the ladies came to pump out the water, and there was no soap. All we used was the ashes from the charcoal. We had a place called the dumping charcoal, and you're not supposed to spit or keep it clean because that's what they use for washing clothing or dishes.
After the war, the Americans started a hunt for orphans who might perhaps be the children of American soldiers. And in the Tokyo slums, they discovered a white 6-year-old girl, apparently confined with animals in a dog cage.
1955, I was found and quickly the founding was reported to the Swedish embassy, saying that this child belongs to you, and which they contacted my grandfather, and he said, yes, that's my granddaughter.
Years of court proceedings concluded that Marianne was Swedish, and she was taken into the care of Swedish embassy in Tokyo. She was educated in an American school and either lived at the embassy or with various foster families. After graduation, she moved to Sweden and worked for a couple of years, but returned to Japan to nurse her old nanny Fumi, who was dying of cancer.
The moment she died, I screamed alone. Everybody went out, even my Japanese father went out, and I screamed, asking her, come back, Mommy, you can't abandon me, because she was totally, heavily controlling me. And so much she was controlling me. And I thought, how could you go away from me? How can I live without you? Yet, at the same time, I was saying, bravo, I'm free.
Marianne married in Japan, but again her life became beset with domestic violence. She divorced, remarried, and had a son. At this point, she started to search for her real father, and after years of frustration dealing with authorities in different countries, she finally obtained a response.
I get this phone call from Red Cross saying that they found him, and then I said, is he dead? And she says, yes, 10 months ago. So I missed him by 10 months. In about 2 hours' time, I get the phone call from Ashley saying, I got it. I got your father's obituary on Albuquerque Journal. And then she starts telling me, your father's name was James Allison Vaughn, born 1925, so-and-so, and your grandmother's name is Hester Ruby Vaughn and Osmer Vaughn, and then I was writing down everything, crying. Finally, I get to know the names. And then she says, you have brother.
Marianne is still fighting the American authorities for the right to be recognized as the legitimate daughter of James Vaughn.
The US government is trying to cover up the fact that he was working on a secret mission in Japan, and that's why they don't want to...
Yes, from 1953, I got the file that his employment record saying he was in the nuclear. Okay, he was working for the nuclear department for RECO and then EGG together with Lockheed and CIA. So it was the work that they did together for the nuclear sources, and he was very much involved in this test site. And as my aunt says, that he was present to all the test sites, even in Bikini Island, which was very close to Japan, that he had been involved in this nuclear testings.